Welcome to another episode of B&B, Beer and Data Breaches, where we cover the 5 most interesting data breaches from this last week and one of our favorite beers. This is a special episode where not only are we covering beer, but we're saying goodbye to one of our cast members, Nikki. So goodbye, Nikki.
Bye, Nikki.
Bye, nice.
Bye, Nikki.
Bye, Nikki.
So before we begin, let's introduce our new moderator and marketing manager, Divya.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Divya. Welcome. Welcome to Hack Notice.
Thank you.
Nikki, what do you have for us this week?
Well, let's get started with the story, shall we? Topic number 1 we'll be covering today comes from News Channel 8, Florida. Headline reads, Florida's unemployment site hacked, 57,000 accounts involved in data breach.
First of all, I can't believe that Florida's unemployment site was hacked and only 57,000 accounts were found.
Well, yeah, all the men and women are busy and not online. So what do you guys think about this story?
I gotta agree with Mike. I mean, 57,000 seems a
low,
little low.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were probably more. The thing that popped out at me was that this is the second time in like a year that they've had some sort of data breach. Like, what's up with that?
Specifically the Florida unemployment office, right? Because Florida's had way more data breaches than here. Like the state of Florida's had plenty of data breaches this year.
Well, maybe they are trying to make a point
And what's that point?
that they can be easily breached.
Good point. Fair
That would
point.
make sense.
I like that. Yeah, and they succeeded in making that point. Good job, Florida.
Definitely. They succeeded.
See that the office actually offered a year's worth of identity theft protection for all the people that were affected, and they actually contacted the 3 credit bureaus to let them know that 57,000-ish of their people need to check their credit reports.
So, I mean, not to be callous, but I don't think the credit score of 57,000 unemployed Floridians is the #1 concern here. I mean, the credit score can only go down so far. I think 57,000 seems pretty low for this. That sounds like a bullshit number. This is the type of thing, we see it all the time where someone files a data breach and they're like, oh, we know for a fact that 57,000 records were exposed, but we kind of know that like 30 million records were exposed, and we'll just silently update it later.
Where's it going to round down for right now?
Yeah, that's like the server that originated the attack or something is 57,000.
Yeah.
And then everything else is wishy-washy. A lot of people getting turned down for wave runners.
You know, 57,000, I bet someone in the Florida unemployment office is like, what sounds like a big number, but isn't really a big number? 57,000, let's say that. And then later we'll have the real number.
They also mentioned that back in May 2020, there was 100 unemployment applicants that their data was compromised. So this probably from the same one, but the number just grew.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder, do you think this included Trump? Because technically he's an unemployed Floridian.
That's true.
Hot take.
Let's get a social.
I mean, he could have been one of the 57,000.
I don't know.
The chances are greater than 0.
The number of applicants between 8:01 and 8:03 on a Tuesday in Florida.
Hot take on Florida. All right, any final statements about the state of Florida?
I mean, like, it's gotta suck to be unemployed in Florida, but then to have your data stolen as well, that just doubly sucks.
Well, the silver lining is that once you are down, you cannot go any more down. So,
Yeah.
I mean, are they even concerned about that?
What could a hacker do with that? Like nothing. You can't
Of
payday loan because there's no payday.
course.
You can't get a car.
What are they gonna steal? I mean, you're pretty safe at that point.
Maybe they'll use it for recruiting into the new Re-Evil.
That's-
Number 2.
I like that, Agnes. So moving on to topic number 2. We are looking from the Associated Press. The headline reads, "Holy moly, inside Texas's fight against a ransomware hack." So the city of Borger, Texas Panhandle City, was taken down by a ransomware event, and the whole entire city was basically brought to its knees by a ransomware group. What are your thoughts on the story?
Which group?
I believe it was actually,
I think it was Re-Evil.
No, they rebranded to
Brief.
Black Matter. Black Matter.
Well, this is 2 years ago. I swear, I read the article. I'm pretty sure it was Re-Evil.
You didn't read the article.
I skimmed through it.
This is Bourbon and Data Breaches, where the articles are not read and the stories are made up.
the culprits were affiliated with Revo.
Oh. The Re-Evil,
I read the
Who
story.
was right?
the Re-Evil syndication and affiliate program.
When in doubt, Re-Evil.
Black Matter now.
Black Matter now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of details that were shared. Workers were frozen out of files. Printers spewed out demands for money. I think that's kind of a cool tactic where they go with the printers and have them print out, like, pay us or we're going to waste all your ink and paper. This is exactly what happens in a movie situation when there's a ransomware attack and people are being held for money.
Mhm.
Printed with like all black background with white lettering to waste extra ink. That's what I would do.
Shu, where were you on July 16th?
Not in the Panhandle. I love the Panhandle. I love the Texas Panhandle.
Do
I would
you?
totally, yeah, I would totally move the Texas Panhandle.
I think it's time for a beer break.
Beer break.
That sounds good.
So, did we actually cover that last story? I don't remember what the point was.
I can cover your beer if you want,
Yeah.
because I
You wanna
know
Get
about
Hell yeah.
it. So I can tell you.
Get it?
So let me give some background and I'm gonna hand you the laptop and you can tell us what you're tasting in the beer.
Yeah,
How does that sound?
sounds good.
Where is all your
Critical
stuff?
thinking right there.
What did you do?
What happened?
Where's the thing?
Which one?
There it is.
Oh, okay.
What do you have to?
Mm.
So today, special episode, we are doing Karbach Love Street, which is a blonde ale. Karbach is a brewery famously from Houston, Texas, which also Divya joins us from Houston, Texas. Karbach has a number of beers that are pretty well distributed. Love Street, I think one of their most popular, but Hopadillo IPA, certainly that's in a lot of places. And then they have even branched out into hard seltzer with their ranch water.
I've actually had the Hopadillo IPA. It's
I
pretty
love
good.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopadillo is pretty good, yeah. So we are looking at 16 IBU and a 4.9% ABV. We have 2 row wheat, so you should have some of that nice wheat sweetness in it. Variety of hops here. We've got a review from Total Wine saying that this is a clean multi-profile, doesn't seem like it's overly hoppy, some floral German hops. And I've seen a lot of people call this a session beer. So I'm going to hand this over to Divya to tell us what she thinks of the beer.
Okay, so definitely all those descriptive words for Karbach are true. It's a very light beer with coming in at 4.9% ABV, very, very low for alcohol. I think it's pretty much the same as a Bud Light, maybe 0.4% more.
That's correct.
Also, the Kolsch style, because it's a Kolsch, so it's going to be lighter and you can have this during the daytime. whenever you're going out golfing. Love Street is a very popular beer. And I believe it's also named after hotspot of music, it says. So like that was like based on Alan Landing's Love Street, that's what it says. And super light, super refreshing, very crisp, malty, pilsnery-ish kind of flavor profiles, kind of bordering down to like a lager style, but definitely very refreshing hops. It rejuvenates your day, and a perfect day, a perfect beer to have during the daytime, and just kind of like have a couple of beers with your friends. This would be the perfect one because of the flavor profile, the shares. So yeah, also very light on the nose. So there's that.
Great.
Very accurate. Definitely, I'm sold on that beer.
Well, let me hand this back over to Nikki and make sure you share your screen, Nikki, for story number 3.
All right, so moving on to topic number 3, we're actually keeping it in Texas for now. This story comes from the Texan. Headline reads, Judson ISD pays unspecified ransom to hackers after month of system lockdown. If you had to guess how much a school district can pay for such thing, how much would you guess? Because they didn't disclose.
$2 million.
At least $1 million. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
2 million.
Yeah, well, one of those articles threw around a bunch of stats, like the state of Texas, school districts 2 million. Let's see, cities 2.3 million, counties 3.2 million. This stuff adds up. I think Reevil asked for like 2.3 million from one town. They're not going to get 2.3 million from one town, but what they're going to do is get, 50K, 100K here and there, and it's going to add up for them.
Well, if they had their whole operation locked down for a month, yeah, I'm guessing they are going to be willing to pay
Yeah.
well above 1 million. I mean, pretty much whatever they ask, as long as it is a payable number.
Yeah, the concern is the number of laptops and desktops they have and the cost of being shut down for that long. If you aren't able to actually provide education to students, you don't get federal funding. So they could be losing more than the total ransomware amount if they choose not to pay. This was a big issue during COVID, where federal funding was tied to in-person attendance. And so school districts were not getting any federal funding because kids were not going in person. So I know that was a big problem in Austin. So, if you have your entire network shut down and you can't properly educate, it could cost you quite a bit.
Yeah, kudo. I don't believe Borger paid. The city of Borger paid. It looks like what happened is that they were restored from backups, and it says that a lot of cities, the best defense against this are backups, proper backups. But let's be real here. Even if we all make backups, let's go through an exercise. Do a lot of companies actually go through the exercise where we have to restore everything from a backup? What happens? How long are you down for? So that comes into decision on whether or not you do pay a ransomware or not.
Yeah, I keep extensive backups, but I don't think that everyone at the company does the same. And so I've had to restore from backup before because I've had laptops stolen and that sort of thing. But it's a pain even if you have good backups, right? Even just one device. If you're restoring 20,000 devices, it's not fun.
Any final thoughts? Okay. Moving on to story number 4. Hackers use Discord for spreading malware. 14,000 malware URLs reported.
Crushed it.
You use Discord, right?
I do.
How do you feel about this?
Shu uses
great.
Discord.
I quit Discord before we started this recording, okay?
Did you click on any malware before you started this recording?
No, I always click on malware. I like to live life on the edge.
Is this because there's a large youth population on Discord?
I think it's
there's a large population on Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Discord is just a method. It's like texting, faxing, emails, whatever. Discord, I think this article just threw Discord in there to get clicks, but there's nothing in it.
I know Gary Vee and other people were just opening Discords to talk about, to talk in small to medium-sized groups
Yeah.
with folks about certain kinds of investment. And so it seemed like a ripe target.
Well, everyone's moving to Slack, except for Slack is incredibly insecure, or rather, to be fair, Slack's never proven how secure they are. And Discord you can run securely from your own server, and it's free, right? So I've considered moving us to Discord off Slack. I find Slack right now to be useful enough to keep using, but the first major security incident that Slack has, I think Discord is very much where I and a lot of other people would switch to.
I think traditionally the target audience of Slack was very different from Discord. Discord, even still, Slack has made up ground for this, but I think Discord was always open to everyone, including channel and business partners. So that's where Slack lacked. They've tried to make up ground for that. But yeah, it's most Discord servers it's a community. Most channels and servers are a community, so it's no different from posting a link to malware on forum spam or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the malware didn't change and the method didn't change. All they did is they started using Discord rather than email, right? And I guess the thought is that Discord should have protections against this. But Discord's purely a technology, and I don't think that a lot of technologies have anti-malware built in. I remember back when Discord was mainly for voice, right? Like a team chat, like actually voice communication, and then it sort of evolved into text. I just think, we are all joining a bunch of different channels and a bunch of different Discord servers, and we should consider every one of those suspect, right? No matter where the link is, you shouldn't just be clicking on it.
Does 14,000 sound like a lot, or does that sound routine? The way that the headline kind
14,000 what?
of risky URLs.
No, that sounds, like 14,000 unique risky URLs, sure, like that's a lot of unique. But like malware can auto-generate URLs super easy.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's hard.
Yeah, I think the article insinuated that Slack took a long time actually removing those URLs from the servers, or not Slack, I'm sorry, Discord. The question I have is, does Slack do the same thing? But it all goes back down to the individual user. Don't click on links you don't know.
Well, and Discord doesn't manage servers or manage communities. Discord purely provides software, and I would hazard a bet that a bunch of those servers are managed by, part-time admins. What do you think, Miguel?
Well, I think that it all comes down, presuming on what you guys said, it all comes down to being a little bit tech savvy, and I'm not saying super savvy or super aware, but I agree with you. Everybody should be aware of the links they are clicking, regardless of where they're coming from, whether it's an email, which is phishing usually, whether it's Discord, Slack. I think the methods and the tools might change, but at the end of the day, people should be very careful with the with the links they click and who they came from. I think that it all comes down to that.
I've heard of some promising technology where there's at least one new browser company that runs the entire browser in a container. And I think that's the direction we should head. I think that every tab in a browser should be its own container, and nothing should be able to get out unless you explicitly are providing permission, and it probably should go through a series of scans. And so I don't believe that technology can solve really any of our security problems. I think that we need better people and people making decisions. But this is one case where, a drive-by download of an infected PDF could very easily be handled by providing a safe sandbox for the browser.
Definitely, we could lessen the risk. We could mitigate that, but that sounds like a good idea. You mean like a virtual machine or a Docker container for each tab? That would be great because that would be encapsulated.
And that's what we do. So my job and Miguel's job is to go into the darknet and click every link we see. And that's the opposite of what all normal people should do, but we do it within a container, it's self-contained, it's safe. But no one else has really that level of technology, right? And so it would be good to have another tool given to every employee. So part of this is better employee education, right? Like, don't click on links. The other part is we really should be using containers for browsers.
I agree.
I didn't know those things existed. Okay. Moving on to our last topic of the day.
All right. Story number 5, presented by Divya.
We've passed the laptop.
So if you go to Zoom,
Okay, I am.
go to Zoom.
This is a symbolic handoff.
So there it is.
Okay, so
Which story?
this last story is IBM and I believe Deloitte or ISSA got together and they discussed that studies are showing that cybersecurity skills gap is widening at the cost of breaches rises. What the story entails is that the cybersecurity skills crisis is going on a downward trend, and it's impacting over 57% of large organizations. At the same time, companies are incurring steep costs from data breaches, with breaches costing companies an average of $4.24 million per incident, which is nearly a 10% increase over 2020. So
I think this has kind of 2 causes. And this is partially from speaking to customers and just partially from experience. The first is when it comes to cybersecurity skills, people are listing, 20 years experience with tools that have only existed for like 7 years. And so I think that
That's how you get a job.
I think that company expectations are out of line with smart, intelligent, eager people who could pick up the skills with on-job experience, but really are not necessarily being given a chance. And kind of from our company perspective, I think that there's an over-reliance on infrastructure to secure the company rather than on people. I think a lot of the data is trending away from regular employees towards specialists. It's difficult to hire specialists, and companies think that the stuff that they've invested in infrastructure wise is enough to secure them from breaches. Whereas even just a little bit of education or training or intelligence moving its way to the general population of employees would make a big difference.
Yeah, the skill gap is bad and it's only going to get worse. And I think that we have to radically reconsider what is the job of the security team. And when you think of the evolution of IT, right? It used to be that you had an IT team and people would call you in and you're like, I don't know how to open a PDF. And so the IT team teaches you how to double click, right? So we solved the IT problem by teaching more people how to do basics. And if you think of security, a lot of employees don't know how to do the basics, right? Like the average employee has trouble resetting a password. So I think the most common sense solution is to make more of the team actually be able to solve their own problems. So accounting should be able to reset passwords. And I think accounting should be able to turn on their own multi-factor without help, right? So self-service for security is the best way to close the skill gap, because then you need fewer cyber resources. They say the skill gap is going to get up to 500,000 unfilled job recs within the next like 10 years here just in the US. So if we need 500,000 cybersecurity workers, you're not going to be able to educate your way into doing that. So you need to have fewer of those workers.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that ties actually back to what Mike said about specialists and generalists here. So many of our breaches that we talk about are things like unsecured S3 instance or an open API here. We're talking about skill sets that are very, very general. You need DevOps experience, you need DBA experience, you need software engineering experience. But how much of that can one person have here? Cybersecurity attacks are very, very sophisticated. So you do need a specialist that knows what their application they wrote is doing. Where are the security holes in that? And a network engineer is not going to know exactly what the security holes are in a application that someone else in some other department wrote. So to your point, Steve, yeah, you need to involve everyone and need everyone's really deep skill sets in the picture and the conversation.
But you should have the right people incentivized to have a complex server password, even if it's a pain in the ass to type in every time.
True. Yeah.
One problem I think we have, and Miguel, I want to get your take on it, is that cyber crime is currently far more lucrative than cybersecurity. And I think that if we had all the people engaged in cybercrime in Soviet bloc countries actually engaged in cybersecurity, that we would solve a lot of these problems. Miguel, from sort of an incentive standpoint, when you see a lot of hackers that are engaged in ransomware, do you think it's because they just make way more money doing that?
Oh, you're muted.
Miguel, you're muted.
Are you muted?
Sorry about that. I was
We
muted.
thought you were thinking or about to fall over.
No, I was just mimicking.
I was like, oh, it's Miguel.
Somebody else was speaking and I was just doing the mimic.
I was like, this is Spanish. I don't understand.
Yeah.
My whole life is a lie. I don't understand Spanish.
You're not as fluent as you believe.
Yeah, I'm not as good as I thought I was.
So I guess to your point, Steve, that makes sense, but that could also be applied to any criminal activity because those are usually far more lucrative than the legal and regulated activities. So I don't think cybercrime would be the exception. But I do want to point out that sometimes with the cybersecurity and in line with what you said on what Mike and Shu also said, there's a problem because some companies tend to believe that the answer to cybersecurity problems or to security problems would be, I don't know, getting more tools, getting more firewalls. And in my head, it's like presenting somebody with a surgical room and not having a doctor to be able to work on that place. I mean, you can have all the tools, but you need people that are actually skilled to that. Or the surgery room, it's a little bit too extreme, but let's think about a mechanical shop. I mean, you can have all the best tools that are available, but if you don't have a guy that knows actually how to how to dismantle and then put back together an engine, yeah, all the tools are not going to really work. I mean,
Well, I think incentives play into it though. Let's say that you've got a guy that's really good at car engines, but he makes more money as a chop shop than actually repairing cars, right?
yes,
I think it's all about incentives. So think about digital piracy. Digital piracy used to be a big industry problem before streaming, right? Because it used to be, I buy this movie for $30 or I download it for free. But then streaming came along and streaming said, you can have access to tens of thousands of movies for $5 a month. And piracy went way down
Because piracy became a pain in the ass.
no, it's because for $5 a month, you can either engage in highly illegal activities or you can get it for $5 a month. The incentive went down. So everyone's doing an analysis of like, how much am I actually getting? Cyber crime, you could make tens of millions of dollars each year. Cybersecurity, you can maybe make $100,000 or $200,000 a year, right?
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
it's
so my premise is that as long as you can make many times more money committing crimes and get away with it, again, in a lot of Soviet bloc countries, these are unenforced laws, then people are going to go into the crime section, and that's going to attribute to the skill gap.
yeah, I agree, and it's pretty much like being a police or a drug dealer. I mean, it's way more lucrative to be a drug dealer than to be a policeman.
Yeah.
So that's gonna happen with the cyber world also, the way I see it. I think you're right. I mean,
Yeah, but
if it is,
changed,
sorry, go ahead.
that changed in Colorado and Washington once weed became legal, right?
Yes,
Then the number of drug dealers plummeted because they can't make as much money, right? So unless you're selling meth or fentanyl, you're like, oh well, for $20 an hour I can go work for Amazon.
yeah, I think we can all agree that the higher the risk, the higher the reward.
Well, but we can also say that the number one difference, as Steve alluded to, is that there's certain Chinese and Soviet bloc countries where if the target is primarily or predominantly English speaking, then people turn their face away, and those are not necessarily enforced laws, which means you get to do a lot of stuff that's way cooler, that you maybe enjoy more, and you get to build a skill set. Whereas here, even if you know who hacked you and when and what happened, if you hack them back, you may get a call from the FBI. And so there's a total disparity in the amount of regulation, and so I'm totally not surprised.
Yeah, there's a reason that ransomware gangs are looking to make at least $1 billion in ransoms this year.
So they operate.
Wow, that's a very big number.
This article did address the security, the salary issue, and y'all are right. Even if you do increase pay, it's going to be a small amount to what you can get as a cyber criminal. So this is not, all these issues that we brought up are not 0 and 1 binary decisions for a person to get into. It's a gradient, and you're going to decrease that risk if you increase salary, but that's a huge range right now from legitimate employee to cyber crimes.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Miguel.
no, sorry. Even if you're a rock star security guy, like some, I don't know, from the top of my head, like a Russian guy could be, even if you are at the top of your game, you're not going to make as much money as you will make with ransomware.
Sure, but
No
imagine if you lived here and the rule here was the same as the rule there, which was if you hack somebody and we can prove that they had a Chinese or Soviet IP, then we're not going to come after you. It's just like, I don't know, practice.
Well, that would be fair because the same rule would apply to everybody. But if you have different set of rules applying to different countries, that's not fair. That's
Situation we're in.
I think all of this is driven by incentives. If you were paid a bounty equal to the amount that you would be paid from ransomware, right? And bug bounties are a great.
Yeah, Apple does that.
Right? Bug bounties have significantly cut down on the number of bugs that are out there in the wild. If you were paid a bounty for, and this is a bad idea, but if you're paid a bounty for successfully breaking into a company and you could prove it, and they paid you the same amount as you would get paid with ransomware, you just received it legally, then you solve this problem. If you give an economic incentive to change behavior, the market will always adjust to it. And you're going to start seeing startups. If you got $1 million bounty for successfully breaking into any DoD contractor, right? Then you're going to see startups that specialize in that and do it all day, right? We have the talent. They're just not incentivized to work on the problem.
Yep, I agree.
We've come a long ways in terms of ethical reporting and bug bounties, but there's still a lot of cases where people are not paid the fair market value for bugs they find. Yep.
But there's still a lot of cases where people are selling bugs in the black market for more as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, if you don't pay out a proper bounty, don't be surprised if people sell that bounty on XSS. And we see it all day.
But again, to Steve's point, think about the number of bug bounties that are being collected from those same countries versus the number of bug bounties that are being collected in like Idaho. And that doesn't mean that Idaho has less talent. That means that they're maybe a little bit more timid or a little bit more shy about the authorities and the condition of that research.
I mean, we paid out a bounty. Someone against our will and without our permission decided to do a pen test on us, and they found some bugs, and a lot of the bugs were not really bugs, but there were a few things in there that we needed to fix, and we actually paid out. We didn't pay out a lot, but we wanted to reward good behavior, mostly good behavior, right? They disclosed it rather than exploiting it. And so we paid out a bounty. So I think that's how companies should work. And if all of these companies that are getting hacked and hit with ransomware actually paid out bounties for those vulnerability disclosures, we wouldn't be in this mess.
And just to return to like a point that we make on the show a lot, an exploit is an exploit. Ransomware is an economic model. Right? So the exploits will always exist. The mistakes will always exist. The way that the economics and the way that the model works can change.
So Mike, to your point regarding jurisdiction here, if I'm a researcher, I find a bug, I go to Facebook, and Facebook says, "Great, it's $5,000, we'll pay you," and I know I could get 100 times that amount on the dark web. Why would I care whether or not I'm in Idaho or?
Well, I'm going to make the point and drop the mic, and that's going to be the end of it. Imagine instead of Facebook that it's a Russian oil and gas company, right? And you can see the exploit. The point is that the American FBI is the first line of defense, because if they catch you doing that, they're going to put you in jail. Whereas if it's an American oil and gas company and you find the exploit, but you live in Kiev, the KGB is not going to come knock on your door.
I get the whole sentiment. I don't think bugs are protected. So I think you can sell them legally to sketchy people, because that was the whole business model for that Italian company that was selling 0 days to like every intelligence organization worldwide. They had like a bad reputation when they themselves got hacked. What do they call it? Hack Team? I think they're called Hack Team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
it was a stupid fucking name.
Not us, by the way.
But
totally different than us.
But actually selling bugs is perfectly legal. But more along the lines of ransomware and vulnerability testing against their will. That's when it gets into super illegal territory. And yeah, to Mike's point, I can't hack the Russian government, even if I know how to, because the FBI is gonna
Yeah.
get upset with me, and then I'm gonna meet the wrong end of some Novichok.
And in diplomatic terms, I would call that an own goal. And that's the part that has me scratching my head. But I agree that if Russian oil and gas companies were willing to pay bug bounties, that we could foster international cooperation and have a much better model. But the FBI definitely does a good job stopping hackers here.
So, you know, a hypothetical question here. If here we are in almost August 2021, if an American hacker went into a Russian oil and gas company, would really the FBI care?
Yes.
How much would the FBI care?
Yes, the FBI has come down on what I would call semi-legitimate actors here, notwithstanding like totally illegitimate actors here, definitely.
Yes. There was famously a cybersecurity reporter that was reporting on the Stratfor data breach and shared a link to the Stratfor data that was publicly posted, and he got his ass thrown in jail. I think that was a DOJ action, not the FBI, but still,
Same
like
shit.
the federal government has hit US based people very hard for doing things that are tame considering what's going on in Soviet bloc today.
Well,
Up until 1992, Olympic basketball was played with professionals from every other country as played with college students from the US. And I think we all know what happened once the regulation got out of the way. It's the same thing right here.
how is the US basketball doing in Tokyo right now? I haven't been paying attention.
Not super great.
Oh no.
Not great, Bob.
But
Old strategy, Cotton.
well, I think that's it. Final parting words. Shu, Miguel, you want one last shot at the cold open?
Well, again, thank you for everything, Nikki, and I'm really sorry that you're leaving. Hopefully we can get together at some point, Houston, Buenos Aires, whatever, and share some drinks.
He was gonna get sappy with it.
Of course, man. I look forward to it.
Final goodbye to Nikki. Thank you for all that you've done to make this video series a thing. And this has been an episode of Bourbon and Data Breaches. If you like what you saw today, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you hated everything you saw today, please also like, comment, and subscribe. If you have a bourbon or a breach you'd like us to try, or evidently a beer, because we're doing beer now, you can let us know at contact@hacknose.com. Until next time.